Texas is starting to look more and more like a war zone. This is because Texas is doing whatever it takes to protect its citizens and stop illegal immigrants from crossing from Mexico through the Rio Grande River into Texas. Now in this video, we're going to go over why Texas is actually getting sued. Locals are questioning some of the things Texas is doing, and Mexico is also kind of pissed off. Let's get into this video. Now real quick, just so you know, a lot of migrants like to cross through the Rio Grande River into Texas, and we'll get into how Mexico and Texas actually share all the Rio Grande River together. It's quite a complicated process. But nonetheless, people are questioning this buoy wall system right here. And many people are saying it's kind of cruel and inhumane to do this to migrants. Let's watch this clip.
Meantime, back here in the U.S. tonight and to the scene at the southern border, the Justice Department just a short time ago now suing Texas after Governor Greg Abbott refused to remove a 1,000-foot-long floating barrier across the Rio Grande, forcing migrants into deeper water and then through razor wire along the banks of the river. Well, Governor Abbott is now telling President Biden tonight, and all of this as the number of migrant crossings are now actually down 30% since May. ABC's Maria Villarreal at the border tonight.
Tonight, the Department of Justice following through with their threat to sue the state of Texas for installing this 1,000-foot buoy barrier to deter migrants from crossing.
Now, here's the thing. I was a former combat engineer, and all of this down here is like textbook engineering. A lot of people think, well, a combat engineer, all you do is try to, take things out with a rocket, blow things up, clear minefields. No, a lot of the job of the combat engineer is to also maneuver or force people in a way that would push them in a direction that you want them to go. Now, in this case, where things get a little iffy is that these are illegal immigrants or migrants trying to come to the United States for a better life, and you'll see in this video why people are sort of questioning why this might be a little sketchy. But I get both sides. We'll get into all of that.
The lawsuit claiming Texas flouted federal law when it did not seek authorization from the Army Corps of Engineers prior to installing the floating barrier and demanding it be removed from the Rio Grande River. Texas Governor Greg Abbott refusing to remove the barrier, arguing in a letter sent to President Biden this morning, the state has the constitutional right and sovereign interest in protecting its borders, writing,
here's where things get a little weird. Again, in the United States, you have state rights and federal rights, and when it comes to the Rio Grande River, it's going to be a complicated process because Texas does have the right to defend their borders. I mean, you do have a National Guard, and you have state troopers and so on. And Texas is taking it really serious. Like, many people have complained, Texas residents are complaining, you guys are not doing enough. All of our tax money is going to this Lone Star mission where we're sending thousands of troops. We've even sent tanks on the border. What is going on?
Texas will see you in court, Mr. President.
We believe we have the right to do so, and we will take this lawsuit all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
The White House responding to that letter moments before the lawsuit was filed.
Instead of coming to the table and trying to figure out a way to work together, he continues to do this really cruel, unjust, inhumane ways.
And by the way, from the very beginning of the Lone Star mission, the Lone Star mission is activating the National Guard to protect the Texas border. There's been a lot of criticism. There's been a lot of issues internally within the National Guard. I haven't seen too much drama coming out of that mission recently, but nonetheless, there's always been a lot of criticism, and I think this is like the icing on the cake for the White House, the federal government, to be like, hold on one second, we never authorized you to do this. What is going on?
Of moving forward.
Border crossings were already down more than 30% before the barrier was installed. And since Title 42 expired and the Biden administration put stricter restrictions in place, the red buoy blockade placed in a shallow area of the river where it's easier to cross, forcing migrants to navigate deeper waters and later crawl through razor wire. The issue coming to a head after an unnamed state trooper sent an email to a superior calling.
Yeah, essentially a state trooper was the one who actually leaked what was going on. Now, obviously people were eventually going to find out, but when you get someone from the inside saying, hold on, this seems not right, inhumane, I don't feel comfortable doing this, come check it out, there's going to be an investigation and the media is going to hype this up. I mean, You have a floating buoy river pushing migrants into razor wire. I mean, this story sells itself in a bad way. Now, I had mentioned why Mexico might be a little annoyed. The thing is this, there are multiple treaties and a lot of complicated processes where Mexico and the United States actually share the Rio Grande. Also, like for agriculture, for pleasure, things like that. The Rio Grande is shared between Mexico and the United States. So when all of a sudden you put this buoy system in the Rio Grande where you're potentially now crossing into the Mexican side of things, Mexico is going to have some issues with this.
In the Rio Grande, Mexico making the argument that it might violate their 1944 and 1970 treaties between the two countries on the boundaries and water. Foreign Relations Secretary Alicia Bercina says Mexico will send an inspection team to the Rio Grande to see whether that barrier extends to the Mexico side of the river. This also comes after the owner of a Texas kayaking company sued the state over the installment of the buoy, saying his business will be directly impacted by preventing access to the river. Now,
as you can see, we have a really complex and odd situation here because Mexico is more annoyed at the fact of now you're crossing onto our property, into our territory when we have a specific treaty. We understand there's a difficult migrant process going on, and if I'm going to be honest, Mexico doesn't really even seem to be helping as much, and that's why Texas is like, you know what, we're going to do whatever it takes. I'll get into my opinions at the end. But nonetheless, now we have a kayaking company who's pissed off at Texas and is like, bruh, you're ruining my business. Now, there's been a lot of emphasis on this whole razor wire aspect to it. And again, as a former combat engineer, I've worked with plenty of razor wire. I've worked with pretty much every type of wire you could work with. Now, I do want to say this. This specifically is razor wire, and it's mostly used to deter a human from walking through this because you have different type of wires for humans, for vehicles, etc. I'll get into all of that. But yes, razor wire is devastating for anybody who tries to walk through this thing. You're going to get sliced and diced. Hated working with this stuff. Now, don't get this confused with barbed wire. Barbed wire is the stuff right here in the middle that I'm pointing to. Razor wire is the stuff that has like these blades on it. Barbed wire is used to hold down razor wire or concertina wire. I'll show you that here in a second. But barbed wire is not what's being used here. What's being used is razor wire, which is deliberate and specific for a human to not go through. And right here is a side-by-side on the differences between razor wire and concertina wire. The top one is razor wire, and the bottom part down here is concertina wire. Now, if you ask me, the reason why I'm saying it's deliberate is because razor wire is specifically made for humans to not go through. You're going to get sliced and diced. Down here, the concertina wire, I've made videos about it before, and you may have seen some memes about it. Whenever a tank rolls through some sort of concertina wire, this is the stuff that gets caught up in it. Nonetheless, again, razor wire is specific to humans, and that's why they're probably using it on the Texas border. Now, here's the thing. Texas is getting sued for not following orders or not getting permission for placing this 1,000-foot floating fence in the Rio Grande River. They're not getting sued. I repeat, they're not getting sued for the inhumane ways they're doing things. Now, if I'm going to be honest with you, I actually don't even see this as that inhumane, and I actually see this as proper, textbook proper. And the reason why I'm saying this is because they made that buoy orange. So you know it's there, so you know not to go there. It would have been very cruel if they like tricked you and put vegetation over it or they spray painted it OD green or brown. I think that would have been very cruel. But nonetheless, I think Texas they're trying to create a deterrent here. Look, you got to understand this, and I've even talked about it with the war in Ukraine. Russia didn't put all those minefields for you to go through it. Ukraine doesn't put up all these booby traps for Russia to go through it. They want you to either go around it or just not go through it at all. And Texas just doesn't want people going through this system at all. So in Texas's defense, they're saying, look, don't come to our country. We have a legal process, and people are still coming to the United States. Now, my family, they're immigrants, so I'm not about to sit here and be like, nobody come to this country. I understand why people want a better life. Coming from Mexico into the United States, 100% get that. But at the end of the day, Texas is boasting they have a 30% decrease because of everything that's going on. The deterrence, the state troopers, the National Guard, everyone coming together to try stopping illegal immigrants coming into their country. And if I'm going to be honest with you, Texas, they do have the right, and they do have what's the word I want to say? They have to protect their citizens. That is the job of the governor. They have a moral duty. That's what I want to say. The governor has a moral duty to try and protect his citizens any way possible. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't even see this as that inhumane.
Texas installed that large orange buoys earlier this month to deter and block migrants from crossing that Rio Grande and entering Eagle Pass, Texas. In a tweet, Texas Governor Greg Abbott said, quote, "President Biden refuses to secure the border. Texas continues to hold the line in his absence. That marine barrier will cost Texas around $1 million. The buoys are
Right. So again, Texas is saying, look, where have you been? We have to defend ourselves. We're not going to wait for orders. We're going to do whatever it takes. And again, I think the key here is it's being used as a deterrent. I don't think anyone in the United States, Texas, wants people to get hurt. If you see that the wall, if you see the floating barrier, if you see the razor wire, just back away. Please don't come here. But nonetheless, people are still trying to get through it.
Are connected through a string that is about 1,000 feet long and has a netting underneath them that's anchored to the riverbed. The buoys were placed in a stretch of the river in Eagle Pass, which has seen an increase in illegal crossings in the last few weeks, which included several drownings of migrants, which News Nation was on the ground for. Now, migrant advocates are also arguing that these buoys will possibly cause more drowning. So
again, Texas is not getting sued for the drowning or inhumane things. I want to put that out there, but this is an aspect of the story that does need to be talked about, because I'm here to educate you that I think they did it in the most humane way you can. They painted the balls orange. You can see everything. They're not hiding anything here, and Texas is saying don't come here. It's a deterrent.
Kind of a big week in this, Nick, and we're going to expect to get a response from the U.S. government, possibly from Greg Abbott as well in these upcoming days. But now Mexico, very concerned over that buoy installment.
So that is the story. Texas is being sued by the federal government. Texas is being sued by a local kayaking company for essentially ruining his business. And I actually side with the kayaking guy. There's got to be a way to resolve this, or he has to get paid in some way, shape, or form. Because look, you're not about to be kayaking through the middle of a war zone through the Rio Grande River. Nonetheless, this is the story. Let me know what you guys think down below. If I'm going to be honest with you, I understand all sides of the coin. I get where Texas is coming from. I get where Mexico is coming from. I get where that kayaker is coming from. And I get where the people are coming from in Mexico, where they're trying to come into the United States and have a better life. We do have due process, and we do have a legal way to do things. I understand it's difficult, but this is a deterrent. And if the deterrent has to turn into a defense, the defense is working, and then you have Overwatch on that position. That's why I'm saying Texas is looking like a war zone every single day, because it's turning into a war zone for them. They have to defend their borders, and this is a combat engineer 101 tactic. You use a deterrent, you then push them to where they need to go, and then you hopefully can stop them there at the razor wire, where, again, it's bad to walk through razor wire. I've gotten cut by Concertina wire, never razor wire, thankfully. Nonetheless, it hurts. Anyway, leave your comments and opinions down below. This is quite an interesting story, and I'm sure we're going to see this a couple more times on this channel. It's a very interesting topic to me, and we'll see you guys later.